Most men think the way to know if a woman truly loves them is to watch what she does when things are good. They look for consistency, affection, support during the easy times. And for years, that's what we've been told judge people by their actions, not their words. But here's what I've observed after a decade working with men over 50, many of them in their second or third serious relationship, many of them recently divorced, many of them trying to rebuild trust after betrayal. The most dangerous lies aren't the ones women tell you, they're the ones women tell themselves. And when a woman is sober, composed, in control of her image and her narrative, she can maintain those lies effortlessly. She believes them herself. She can look you in the eye and say exactly what she's convinced herself is true, even when her deeper feelings tell a completely different story. But here's the truth no one tells you. Alcohol doesn't create honesty. It removes the filter between what she feels and what she's willing to admit. And in those unguarded moments, when her cognitive defenses are down, when she's not managing impressions or protecting egos or keeping the peace, that's when the truth she's been hiding from both of you comes to the surface. Now, before you think this is about getting someone drunk to interrogate them, let me be very clear. That's not what this is. This is about recognizing the moments when truth naturally emerges and knowing what to listen for when it does. My name is Dr. Sarah Whitman, and I have over a decade experience as a clinical psychologist specializing in men's relational health, particularly men navigating the second half of life. I've worked with over 4,000 men between the ages of 45 and 70, divorced men, widowed men, men in stagnant marriages, men dating again after 20 or 30 years out of the game. And one pattern I see over and over again is this: men in midlife stop trusting their instincts. They ignore the small inconsistencies. They rationalize the emotional distance. They accept explanations that don't quite add up because they want to believe the best. Because they're tired, because starting over feels impossible, because they've convinced themselves that doubt is just insecurity. But your instincts aren't the problem. Your inability to verify them is. You feel something's off, but you can't put your finger on it. You sense a gap between what she says and what she feels, but you have no proof. You wonder if you're being paranoid, controlling, damaged from past relationships. And so you stay silent, you wait, you hope it resolves itself. But it doesn't, because the issue isn't what she's telling you, it's what she's not telling herself. Let me explain what's actually happening beneath the surface. Every human being operates with two versions of their emotional reality. There's the story they've constructed, the one they present to the world, the one they believe about themselves, and then there's the raw, unprocessed emotional truth, the feelings they haven't reconciled, the doubts they've buried, the resentments they've minimized. Think of it like a factory with two production lines. The first line is quality control. Everything that comes off this line has been inspected, refined, packaged for public consumption. This is the version of herself she's decided is acceptable. The version that aligns with how she wants to see herself. Loving, committed, faithful, present. The second line is raw material. It's messy. It's unfiltered. It's everything she actually feels before she's had a chance to shape it into something presentable. Most of the time, the quality control line is running at full capacity. She's managing her words, her tone, her facial expressions. She's making sure everything she says aligns with the story she's told herself about who she is and what this relationship means. But alcohol doesn't shut down the factory. It shuts down quality control. Suddenly, the raw material starts coming out unchecked. The things she actually feels but hasn't processed, the doubts she's dismissed, the frustrations she's minimized, the truths she's not ready to face. And in those moments, if you know what to listen for, you'll hear things she would never say sober. Not because she's lying when she's sober, but because she's lying to herself when she's sober. After age 40, this becomes especially critical for men because the stakes are higher. You don't have decades to waste in a relationship that isn't real. You don't have the energy to rebuild after another betrayal. You can't afford to ignore what your gut is telling you just because you don't have evidence. But you also can't live in constant suspicion. You need clarity, you need truth. And these 6 questions, asked in the right context, will give you exactly that. Now let me address why the standard advice men follow doesn't actually solve this problem. You've probably been told to communicate more, to ask direct questions, to create a safe space where she feels comfortable being honest, and on the surface, that sounds reasonable. Open communication, vulnerability, mutual trust, these are the pillars of a healthy relationship, right? But here's the flaw in that approach. It assumes she knows what she's hiding from you. Most women aren't consciously deceiving you, they're unconsciously deceiving themselves. They've rationalized their feelings into a version that's easier to live with. They've convinced themselves that the occasional doubt is normal, that the lack of passion is just maturity, that the emotional distance is temporary stress. So when you ask her directly, "Do you still love me?" or "Are you happy in this relationship?" she'll answer based on the story she's told herself. And that story might be completely disconnected from how she actually feels. It's like asking someone if their engine is running smoothly while they're only listening to the radio. They'll say yes, because the music sounds fine. They have no idea the engine is misfiring, because they've tuned out the sound. Direct questions, in moments of full sobriety and composure, give you the answer she believes, but they don't give you the truth she's avoiding. And that's the gap that destroys relationships. Not the lies she tells you, the lies she tells herself. So let me reframe how you should think about this. Alcohol in moderate amounts isn't a truth serum in the sense that it forces confession. It's a bypass around self-deception. It temporarily disables the part of her brain that manages narrative consistency, the part that makes sure everything she says aligns with the identity she's constructed. And when that's offline, what comes out is pure signal, unprocessed emotion, the truth she hasn't yet packaged into something socially acceptable. Now, I want to be very clear about something. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about getting her drunk and cornering her with interrogations. That's coercive, unethical, and frankly, it won't work anyway. If she feels ambushed, she'll shut down, even while intoxicated. This is about recognizing natural moments, dinner with wine, a night out, a relaxed evening at home where her guard is down, and using those moments to ask questions that reveal what's happening beneath the surface. You're not tricking her. You're listening to the version of her that doesn't have the energy to edit. And the 6 questions I'm about to share with you are specifically designed to surface the truths most women bury, even from themselves. Let's start with the first question. If you could go back and do it all over again, would you still choose me? This question works because it bypasses her current commitment. It doesn't ask if she loves you now. It asks if she would choose you again, knowing everything she knows. When a woman is sober, she'll almost always say yes, because saying no feels like betrayal. It feels disloyal. It threatens the stability of the relationship. But when she's had a few drinks, the question hits differently, because now she's not thinking about protecting your feelings or maintaining the relationship. She's thinking about the question itself. And if there's regret buried beneath the surface, if she's ever wondered what her life would look like if she'd made a different choice, it's going to show in her response. You're not listening for a simple yes or no. You're listening for hesitation, for qualification, for phrases like, "I mean, yeah, but," or "it's complicated, you know?" Because a woman who would genuinely choose you again doesn't hesitate. She doesn't qualify. She says yes and moves on. But a woman who's been quietly questioning that choice, even subconsciously, will pause. She'll add context. She'll explain. And in that explanation, you'll hear the truth. Many men report that this single question has revealed doubts their partner had been carrying for years, doubts she wasn't even fully aware of herself. The second question is equally powerful, but it works through a different mechanism. What's the one thing you wish I understood about you that you've never been able to explain? This question is brilliant because it gives her permission to express frustration without framing it as criticism. It's not about what you're doing wrong, it's about what you're not seeing. When a woman is sober, she'll often minimize this. She'll say, "Nothing really," or "I don't know, I think you get me." Because admitting there's something you don't understand feels like she's failing to communicate. It feels like her fault. But when her defenses are down, when she's a little drunk and a little emotionally open, this question unlocks something deeper. She'll tell you about the loneliness she feels even when you're together, the way she doesn't feel pursued anymore, the sense that you see her as a role wife, partner, companion, but not as a woman. The frustration that you stopped being curious about her years ago. And here's the thing, she's probably never said this out loud before, because saying it feels ungrateful. After all, you're committed. You're present. You're doing your part. But presence isn't the same as attention, and attention isn't the same as desire. This question surfaces the gap between what you think you're providing and what she actually needs, and if there's resentment buried in that gap, you'll hear it now. The third question cuts even deeper. If I died tomorrow, what's the first thing you'd feel, relief or devastation? Now, I know that sounds morbid, and when a woman is sober, she'll react with shock or offense. How could you even ask me that? She'll say. Because the socially acceptable answer is devastation, and anything less feels cruel to admit. But when she's drunk, when the emotional honesty is flowing, this question forces her to confront what she's actually feeling, not what she's supposed to feel, and the answer will tell you everything. A woman who is deeply in love, who still feels connected to you, who would be genuinely shattered by your loss, won't hesitate. She'll say, devastated, of course. Don't even talk like that. But a woman who's been emotionally checked out, who's been staying out of obligation or fear of change or financial dependency, will pause. She'll stumble. She might even laugh nervously and say something like, I mean, obviously I'd be sad, but that but is everything. Because what often comes after that but is the truth she's been avoiding. But honestly, sometimes I wonder what my life would look like without this relationship. Or, but I think part of me would feel free. She's not saying she wants you dead. She's saying she feels trapped, and she's been too afraid or too guilty to admit it. Many men tell me this question saved them years of slow-motion betrayal, because once you know she's fantasizing about life without you, you can address it. You can decide if the relationship is worth saving, or if it's time to let it go with dignity instead of dragging it out until it explodes. The fourth question shifts focus from her feelings about you to her feelings about herself. Do you think you've become the woman you wanted to be, or did life make you someone else? This is powerful because it's not about the relationship at all, it's about her identity. And most women over 40 have a complicated relationship with this question. They've spent decades adapting, compromising, putting other people's needs first, and somewhere along the way, they stopped recognizing themselves. When she's sober, she'll usually give you a diplomatic answer. I think I'm still me, just older and wiser. But when she's drunk, when the defenses are down, you'll get the real answer. She'll tell you she feels invisible, that she gave up parts of herself she didn't think she'd have to, that she looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the woman staring back, that she's been so focused on being what everyone else needed that she forgot to be what she wanted. And here's why this matters to you. If she's carrying resentment about who she's become, and she associates that loss of self with the relationship, she's going to blame you. Maybe not consciously, maybe not overtly, but deep down, she'll see you as part of the system that stole her identity, and that resentment will erode everything. The intimacy, the respect, the connection. This question lets you see if she's at peace with who she is, or if she's quietly resenting the life she's living. The fifth question is designed to surface hidden comparisons. If you could be completely honest, who do you think about when you imagine the best version of your life? This one is tricky because it's not asking if she's cheating or fantasizing about someone else. It's asking who represents the life she wishes she had. When a woman is sober, she'll shut this down immediately. You, of course, this is my life. But when she's drunk, when the walls are down, the answer gets more complicated. She might say an ex, not because she wants him back, but because he represented a version of herself she misses. The woman she was before responsibility and routine took over. She might say a friend, someone living the life she wishes she'd chosen, more freedom, more adventure, more passion. She might say no one, but the way she says it will tell you if it's true or if she's protecting you. Because here's what men over 50 need to understand. Women don't usually leave because they've found someone better. They leave because they've found a vision of themselves they like more. And if that vision doesn't include you, the relationship is already over. She just hasn't admitted it yet. This question reveals whether you're part of her ideal future or an anchor keeping her from it. And now, the sixth and final question. This one is the most revealing of all. When you think about us in 5 years, do you feel excited or exhausted? This question works because it bypasses the present moment and forces her to project forward, and projection reveals priority. When a woman is sober, she'll say something safe. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll still be together. But fine and together aren't the same as excited. When she's drunk, when her guard is down, you'll hear what she actually feels about the trajectory of this relationship. If she lights up, if she talks about plans and dreams and experiences she's looking forward to sharing with you, that's a woman who sees you as part of her future in a meaningful way. But if she sighs, if she looks away, if she says something like, honestly, I just hope it gets easier, that's a woman who's already mourning the relationship. She's staying, but she's not invested. She's enduring, not enjoying. And the word exhausted is the one you need to listen for. Because exhaustion doesn't mean she's tired from external stress. It means the relationship itself has become a burden. Men tell me this question has been the most painful to ask, but also the most clarifying, because once you know she's exhausted by the thought of 5 more years with you, you can stop pretending. You can stop hoping it'll get better on its own. You can address it head on, or you can end it with dignity. Now, here's why these 6 questions work together. Each one targets a different layer of her emotional reality. The first question reveals choice and regret. The second reveals unspoken needs. The third reveals emotional investment. The fourth reveals identity and resentment. The fifth reveals comparison and idealization. The sixth reveals future orientation. Together, they form a complete picture of where she actually stands. Not where she says she stands, not where she thinks she stands, but where her unfiltered emotional truth places her. And when you combine these insights, you stop guessing. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop living in the fog of uncertainty. You see clearly. And clarity, even when it's painful, is always better than delusion. Because here's what happens when you finally know the truth. You stop wasting energy trying to fix something that can't be fixed. You stop resenting her for feelings she didn't even know she had. You stop blaming yourself for instincts that were right all along, and you make a decision from a place of truth instead of fear. Maybe that decision is to fight for the relationship with full awareness of what needs to change. Maybe it's to walk away with your dignity intact. Maybe it's to redefine the relationship into something more honest, even if it's less traditional. But whatever you decide, you're deciding based on reality, not hope, not assumption, not the story she's told herself to avoid discomfort. Let me give you some practical guidance on how to actually use this. First, timing matters. You're not sitting her down for an interrogation. You're not creating a formal, high-pressure moment. You're waiting for natural opportunities, a relaxed dinner, a night out, a quiet evening at home with a bottle of wine. The key is that she needs to feel safe. If she senses you're testing her, she'll shut down, drunk or not. This works because it feels like conversation, not investigation. Second, you ask 1 question per occasion. Maybe 2 if the conversation flows naturally, but not all 6 in one night. That's too obvious, too intense. You spread them out over weeks or months. Third, you listen more than you react. If she says something painful, don't get defensive. Don't argue. Don't shut her down. Just listen. Let her finish. Let the truth come out fully before you decide what to do with it, because the goal isn't to catch her in a lie. The goal is to understand what's really happening so you can make an informed choice about your future. And fourth, don't use this as ammunition. Don't throw it back in her face when she's sober. Don't punish her for being honest when her guard was down. That's not just unethical, it's counterproductive. You'll lose her trust permanently, and you'll never get the truth again. Many men find that these conversations, handled with respect and patience, actually become turning points, not because they expose betrayal, but because they expose disconnection. And disconnection can be addressed if both people are willing. So what does it feel like when you finally have this clarity? Let me tell you what men in my practice describe. First, there's relief. Even if the truth is painful, it's better than uncertainty. They stop obsessing over small inconsistencies. They stop lying awake at night wondering if they're paranoid. They know where they stand. Second, there's power. Not the power to control her, but the power to control their own life. They're no longer hostages to her narrative. They're making decisions based on their own assessment of reality. Third, There's peace, because they stop fighting themselves. They stop dismissing their instincts. They trust themselves again. And for many men, that's the most valuable thing. Not the relationship, not the answers. The return of self-trust. Because when you've spent years doubting yourself, when you've convinced yourself that your gut is broken, when you've been told you're insecure or controlling or damaged for noticing inconsistencies, getting that self-trust back changes everything. You walk differently, you speak differently, you set boundaries you wouldn't have set before. And ironically, that shift, that return to your own center, often does more to save the relationship than any amount of trying to please her or win her back. Because women don't respect men who doubt themselves. They don't desire men who need constant reassurance. They're drawn to men who know their own worth and aren't afraid to walk away if the relationship doesn't serve them. So even if the truth you discover is painful, the process of discovering it makes you stronger. Now, let me be clear about something important. These questions aren't a weapon. They're not a manipulation tactic. They're not a way to win the relationship or dominate her or expose her weaknesses. They're a tool for clarity, for men who are tired of guessing, for men who deserve to know where they actually stand. And clarity serves both of you. If she's genuinely in love with you, these questions give her the chance to express things she's struggled to articulate. They deepen the relationship. If she's checked out but hasn't admitted it, these questions bring it to the surface so both of you can stop wasting time. Either way, you move forward with truth instead of illusion, and that's what men over 50 need more than anything else. Not more time, not more hope, more truth, because you don't have decades left to rebuild. You don't have the energy to invest in a relationship that's already dead. You can't afford to ignore what your instincts are screaming at you just because you're afraid of being alone. The real tragedy isn't ending a relationship that wasn't real. It's staying in one and realizing 10 years later that you knew the whole time. So here's what I want you to understand. Aging isn't the enemy. Neglect is. Neglecting the truth, neglecting your instincts, neglecting the gap between what you hope is true and what actually is. And the 6 questions I've given you are a way to stop neglecting that gap. You don't have to ask them all. You don't have to ask them tomorrow, but when the moment comes, when she's relaxed, when the wine is flowing, when her guard is down, ask one. And listen, not to what she says, but to what she reveals, because the truth is already there. It's been there the whole time. You've just been waiting for permission to see it. Consider this your permission, and when you're ready to move forward, whether that's rebuilding with honesty or walking away with dignity, you'll do it from a place of strength, because you'll finally know. So I'll leave you with this. What question scares you the most? Not because you don't want to know the answer, but because you already suspect what it is. That's the one you need to ask first.